Welcome everyone to the episode of the Ol'Timers comic book show. The only show where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. Joining me this time around, as always, it's the Professor.
Hey Johnny, how are you?
Now, before we get into this, I know for a fact that the Professor was going to do a Comic Con. Instead, he's going to hang out and do this show, Professor.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm making his welcome return from the 13th dimension. It's the 13th Crusader.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias, Senor Blackheart.
Muy bien. Corazón negro.
Yeah. Blackheart mal.
Yeah, muy malo.
That's all I get. That's all I know. Sorry.
Very good, Johnny. I'm impressed each and every time.
Yeah, cool. Same jokes. All right, so this time around, because we are a trio and a partnership, I thought it'd be a good time to roll out the old team-up type of saga. Now, why do we like a team-up so much? Professor?
I like team-ups because it's a good time to see characters interacting with each other and maybe taking on a villain that maybe you don't think that they could take on themselves. But always a good time to just see some of your favorite characters working together.
Cool. 13th, why is team up so popular?
For everything that Bud said, but then I'll also add, I think it's a challenge for creators as well, right? Sometimes they get to play around with characters they don't normally get to play with. And for the artist, it could be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
In some of the things that we're going to look at today, maybe it's something that artists has never really touched on. Maybe we get to see a different version of characters, and we're like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
For me, I think team-ups work for the reader more than anything. And the fact that you might pick up a Marvel team-up or a Thing 2-in-1 or a Brave and the Bold or DC Presents. Nobody buys that book apart from me, apparently. Only to see characters that you're not familiar with, right? So we recently talked about DC Comic Presents number 3. Now, first time I read that, I had no idea who Adam Strange was. Yeah. So books like that are a great way to kind of find out, you know what? I'm reading the story of my favorite character and another. And that might entice me to go out and check out whichever book that may be. At least for me.
Right.
Plus, it's more bang for your book.
Cool. Yeah, I like what you said about like the lesser known characters, because you do have like, the Brave and the Bold with the Batman anchor and Marvel team up at the Spider-Man anchor. And it was always, I always looked at Spider-Man as being the like the glue that held the Marvel universe together.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah.
And everybody knew Spider-Man. Everybody teamed up with Spider-Man at one point or another. And sometimes it was good. You knew you were going to like Spider-Man, but maybe I might not like this hero, or maybe I want to like this hero because he looks cool.
Yeah. So they're all connected by the web.
Yeah. Stingray. There's a character. Loved his outfit.
Yeah.
Can't think of where I've seen him other than the team-up book.
He was in the Avengers for a little while.
How long?
For a little. He was never a member, but after the mansion got destroyed, they used Hydro Base as a base of operations for the team.
Of course he did.
Yeah, he was there for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, he most definitely was.
What was the most obscure team-up then that you could think of? Mine's Stingray, definitely.
Ooh,
Professor?
Obscure. Probably in the Marvel 2-in-1, the Thing with some like Aquarian or something like that.
That's just why. That's a must-buy book if we ever buy that one.
Well, he was actually in Marvel 2-in-1 for a while, and they changed his name from Wondar to Aquarian, and he's really kind of hasn't been seen since. He was kind of like a Jesus Christ type character.
I wonder why that is. And 13th, can you think of any obscure team-ups that you think, ooh?
Oh, yeah, definitely Spider-Man and Moon Dragon, Valkyrie, even Thor, because as a kid, I wasn't accustomed to Spider-Man and Thor in the same book, never mind a whole thing dedicated to them. So Thor's popular, sure, but with Spider-Man, you don't see that often. Like one-on-one, let's go hang out. So that's what I loved about like the Marvel team-up books.
Cool. It's funny we should talk about Marvel team-up books because the first book we have is the daddy of them all. Let me bring this up for you. It is Marvel Team Up #1, which features, when the catches up with me, there we go. It is Spider-Man, the Human Torch. This is Marvel Team Up #1. I could not find it on eBay at all. It's from 1972, February of 72, which is the year the Dolphins went unbeaten and won the Super Bowl. Just saying. Go collect. This book is such a... At 9.6, Go Collect have this at $1,950.
Really?
Even if you go to grade 6, it's people are still asking $100 for this book.
You know why?
Go on.
No.
Supposedly there's a appearance of Misty Knight in here, which was a retconned first appearance.
You think? You know what? Yeah, I can see where that is. Yeah, I can see it because I read the book.
Yeah,
So
I think she first appeared, was it Marvel Premiere or one of those books?
Yeah.
And then later on, they retconned her, saying, "I remember a time I had an interaction with Spider-Man, and it was in this book."
There you go.
That's interesting.
It's written by, thank you, Roy Thomas, art by Ross Andrew, ink by Mike Esposito, not to be confused with Despacito, the really bad song, and letters by R.T. Simek. Now, I was going to be nice on this book, but because beforehand, Professor dissed my choice, so we'll get to that in a time. But Professor, God damn it, isn't it too early for a Christmas book? Not even in December yet.
I know, it's not even Thanksgiving. What the heck am I doing? This is like listening to Mariah Carey before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Bring me a cranberry and turkey sandwich.
But in my defense, before when I picked this book, I didn't remember it was a Christmas issue.
Yeah, whatever.
But
all right, take us away. Tell us about this book.
So the reason I picked this book is because my favorite Marvel team up was always Spider-Man and the Human Torch, because they were frenemies almost, if you want to call it that. Like, they didn't like each other, but they teamed up and kind of threw barbs back and forth at each other, and then by the end of it, they're like best buddies, and that there's nothing wrong with this one either. It's the same thing. The interesting thing in this book, not to really get too deep into it, but Sandman's the villain, right? And Sandman first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man #4, if I recall correctly, and then quickly was kind of stolen as a pretty good villain to be a villain from Fantastic Four and the Frightful Four, right? And he almost never appeared in Spider-Man again. He was always like a Fantastic Four villain after that, and maybe he appeared in the Hulk a couple of times, but he never appeared back in Spider-Man until like the either our Marvel team up issue like this, or like later on in the 80s, right? So
because there was ironically there's a villain team up with him and Hydra Man, and they join together and become that great big monster, don't they?
Yeah. So I like this issue just because it kind of harkened back to, it kind of reminded you, hey, I fought Spider-Man, blah 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 blah, and I liked it because it kind of gets into Sandman's character a little bit. Sandman was always kind of a one-dimensional villain until the end of this book, where he gets Spider-Man and Human Torch to let him go so he can go visit his mom on Christmas Eve. But that's kind of how they always did Sandman, right? I mean, Sandman was always had that ulterior motive, like where he kind of like really kind of felt like he wasn't all bad, and he did reform for quite a while in the 80s before, and then he was working with Silver Sable for a long time. I think Sandman's one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. And I liked seeing him in this book. I'm kind of surprised that Spider-Man even knew who he was with the costume, because that's such a weird ass costume compared to his original. But
I'm glad he goes back to his original.
Yeah.
Not in this book, but he does eventually. Yeah.
Eventually, but this book really is kind of like a Spider-Man bouncing off of Johnny Storm for a while. They make jokes about the Fantastic Car because apparently Ross Andrew didn't know how to draw it or something, so they throw it in there. But this is just an old 1972 book, is that supposed to be Misty Knight down there, right there?
Yeah, that is. There you go.
Okay.
See, I looked at
They
that
didn't
and I
really
thought,
introduce her, right? She's just
yeah, I'm gonna sound like a complete dick here, but when I looked at this, I was like, could that be Misty Knight? Could that be Glory Grant?
could be, yeah.
Pick a person, right?
Could be
Cool.
either one of them. That's kind of what makes me laugh about like a retcon like that, you know. But it is what it is. Yeah, this is a typical 1970s Spider-Man book with, you know, just the kind of relationships that Spider-Man was the biggest thing going at Marvel at that point in time, and this was his official. This was his second book because Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man didn't launch until shortly after this.
Yeah,
so
I thought that was late. I thought it was much later. Spectacular
like
Spider-Man.
1970, wasn't 76. I think it was slightly before that, but yeah.
Right.
Marvel Team Up was his official second monthly title, which I thought, was just a sign of things to come. So,
Okay.
not really concentrate on the story too much because I think it's really a forgettable story. But
oh, do you? Oh, really? December 1976. The release date for the book was September 76. There you go.
Okay. So it was 76. I said it was before then, but yeah. So this is just a really kind of shows Marvel really wanting to get Spider-Man out there and have him be the front of him in the Marvel universe. Same thing with the Thing, because Marvel 2-in-1 came out shortly after this, right? It was a Thing team up book, and team ups were fun in the 70s.
Yeah, well, I mean, DC did the same with Batman Brave and the Bold. And of course, DC Comic Presents, which was Superman plus another. So
they were doing it forever in the Golden Age with World's Finest. So, right
there you go. All right, good shout. Oh, 13th. What did you take away from this book? And thank you so much for the information regarding the Misty Knight.
No problem.
Appearance. That's
and I know that because I own this book, and
that's why you had to pay. That's why you had to pay more than $13 for it.
That's not what I told the guy I bought it from. I'm like, oh, Marvel Team Up #1 is just a #1.
Someone probably had about 100 copies of this and was like, "How can I bump this up a few bucks?"
Yeah. For you guys know how much I like Roy Thomas's writing. I felt like this adventure here was rather pedestrian for him. So I was kind of disappointed with it. It's just how many coincidences can we link together to have this team up possible, make it possible. So the Sandman never liked this version of his uniform. I do like the character, probably more later on. And the character that Johnny was mentioning was Tundra, if I remember right. That he
turns into
Hydra Man. I believe so, because that was my very first Marvel team up book.
Was that Amazing Spider-Man 224? Something stuff like that. Something around
something like that. Yeah. So that's what I meant to say. Amazing Spider-Man, not Marvel Team Up. But yeah, that was a really nice cover with Spider-Man, and then you see the big monster in the background of Manhattan. Love that cover. The other thing I take away from this is I feel like the personality of Johnny Storm reminded me more of Flash Thompson than anyone else. So kind of like the way that they're talking back and forth with each other. I felt like this was Spider-Man's version of Flash Thompson. But anywho, it's a Christmas story. It's an issue #1. I could see how in the 70s this would have been taken off the newsstand just for the fact that it had Spider-Man and the Human Torch on it. The Fantastic Four was pretty much a household name at this point. Spider-Man was already known worldwide. So, and then the other disappointment was both of these guys are having relationship challenges, whereas Johnny Storm is talking about Crystal of the Inhumans, but Spider-Man's talking about Gwen, and you don't see either one of them in here. So I was kind of disappointed with that.
I always liked Crystal. I thought she was class.
Yeah, I did like it for quite some time. It made sense. But if you're mentioning them, why not show them? At least give them a panel or something.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. Just to clarify a couple of things, Sandman and Hydra Man were merged into Mud Thing back in Amazing Spider-Man 217 and 218. So
you know where Tundra comes from? Alpha Flight. That's why. There was a similar creature.
Cool.
So I have a question before we jump to the next book. Do you think that team up books inherently are weak on story because it's just a way to get the heroes together?
Well, I think I totally understand your point as to Spider-Man being front and center of the Marvel Universe. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. The point I think of Marvel Team Up isn't to actually promote Spider-Man, it's to promote the other characters that he's teamed up with.
100%. 100%.
And
That's
the
why you put him with
kickoff,
Spider-Man.
yeah, so you kick off with Human Torch because those are your heavy hitters, in the Marvel. These are like separate sides of a different coin. On one side, you've got Mr. Responsibility, Peter Parker, versus Mr. No Responsibility in Johnny Storm, and that element kind of contrasts. Story-wise,
you see in this book, Spider-Man actually tells Johnny, "Sandman's your problem. It's not my responsibility."
I know that's bonkers. That is bonkers. What? Yep. But generally speaking, I mean, then 4 pages later, he stops the mugging of Misty, Glory, Grant, Knight. So
why did he jump in the Fantastic Car with him if it's not his responsibility?
Crazy. So
I mean, hasn't he learned from the burglar? I mean,
exactly.
Seriously?
This is my point. So I think sometimes the setup can be a bit ropey, definitely, and I think that's a really good thread to sort of like keep hold of, because I think that kind of reoccurs in the next couple of books we're going to look at, to be honest. But for me, whilst I agree with the 13th Crusader that the script on this is a little pedestrian, I'll tell you how pedestrian this is. When I was a kid, I wrote a Star Wars story. I must have been about 9 or 10 or something. And it was a Christmas Star Wars story. And it was Christmas, and Princess Leia and Han Solo got presents for everybody. And they even sent Darth Vader a can of oil to polish his suit so he didn't get tarnished. Isn't that nice and sweet?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
9 and 10. That's how old I was when I wrote that. 9 and 10. How old were you, Roy Thomas, when you thought it would be a good idea for a bad guy to give it? I need to be let off because why is Glory, Misty, Knight, Grant let the don't do anything with the bad guys. Just let them run free to mug somebody else later on, just because it's Christmas. Oh yeah, great, thanks. Cheers for that.
Not in New York.
Yeah.
That's another inconsistency.
The thing that I think surprised me the most, because it is Spider-Man of the 70s. Ross Andrews' art on this book is bonkers. It is awful. When you think Ross Andrews would grow into be one of the best Spider-Man artists of the 70s, you look at this and you're like, there's knees, the angles are all wrong on his knees. There's no kind of
his Sandman's a dead giveaway for a Jack Kirby impersonation.
Yeah, I mean the trap, how they get out of the trap is just crap. To be honest, that's probably the best Spider-Man picture in the whole book. This bottom one here. But on top of that, you've got, early doors when he's look at that. That's terrible.
Yep.
Oh, just no. And he looks podgy there. How many mince pies have you had, Spider-Man? Yeah. So, I like Marvel team-up books. I think some of them are great. I have a soft spot for Chris Claremont introduced Captain Britain in Marvel team-up. Yeah. The Black Widow was reintroduced in Marvel team-up. That was my first exposure to S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel team-up number 83. So there are some really good things about Marvel team-up. I don't think this is the best example of that.
Sandman's mom looks like Agatha Harkness.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it was a goofy read. Is probably where I'd say on that one for me. Yeah. It was a goofy read.
I think a lot of the Marvel team ups can really lean towards the goofy.
Yeah, and I suppose that. And this is another thread that's going to reappear. But when you've got a character like Spider-Man who seems quite powerful in his own book, you got to question what can Spider-Man not deal with by himself, So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, that's something that's going to pop up later, I'm sure.
Well, that goes back to the conversation we had about like Thor and Spider-Man not really relating together, right? Because anything Spider-Man can't handle, Thor can, and and Thor is so overpowered when you compare Spider-Man to them. You know, the only thing that Spider-Man has going for him is his heart, right? You know, at that point, because we've seen him beat much stronger characters than himself before.
Definitely. Right. Before we get into our second book, it's time for one of our adverts. Where should we go? You know what? We've been talking about Marvel. Team Sony, fair shout. No prize. Here we go. No Prize podcast featuring that guy. Can't point. Which way? That guy. Hey! That guy. There you go.
This guy.
Yeah. It drops the day before us. So there you go. Go check it out.
That guy's on it too. This guy.
Shh. Don't make me turn my DC card in if I say it too loud. I'm joking. I enjoy it. A great show.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yes. I have to thank Lucas because I'm about to make £15 on something. So
there you go.
Cheers, Lucas. Right. Next up is the Professor's Choice.
No, not my
was it? No, sorry,
again.
Sorry, it was the 13th Crusader's Choice. Apologies.
I'm not talking about Marvel Team Up again. No way. I'm out of here.
And here we go. This is Ghost Rider Wolverine Punisher Hearts of Darkness from November 1991. You can get this on eBay in the UK for £3 whole English pounds. 9.6, go collect, have it at $22. It's written by Howard Mackey. Art, if you cannot tell who the artist is by that cover, means your head looking at. It's John Romita Jr. Inks by Klaus. Inks by Klaus Janson. Colors by John Wellington and Joe Rosen. Marvel letterer extraordinaire puts the words in the boxes. There we go. So, 13th. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Perfect. I will put my Heart of Darkness on full display.
Here we go.
One of the reasons why I picked this is because I didn't want to go with like the typical team up named titles, right? Like Marvel Team Up, Brave and the Bold, DC Presents, all the ones that we've mentioned before. So I was thinking, what kind of a team up is there that kind of just stands alone? So I thought of this one because this is one of the first prestige format books I had owned back in the 90s. And I'll admit, I was never really a Wolverine fan at this point. I was never really a Punisher fan. But the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider was was a character that I was following.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, Howard Mackey was the guy that was writing the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. So why not give it a whirl? You guys know I am not a diehard fan of JRJR or John Romita Jr., but I felt for this story, the art fit.
Perfect, yeah.
Yep.
So then this was my first introduction to Blackheart, but Blackheart actually first appeared in Daredevil 270. It is a book I recommend anybody picking up if you're into Blackheart or Anna Senti's writing in general. It was an Anna Senti written story with Daredevil and Spider-Man. They were the first ones.
Hard pressed to find the Seti fan after recent books. Just saying.
But Blackheart was created in that issue by Mephisto. So in that Daredevil story, there's an area called Christ's Crown where various people were killed or whatever tragedies happened. That started in the 1600s, and that's how Blackheart, I guess, all that dark energy, Mephisto was able to manipulate it to have Blackheart manifest from it.
Manifest from Mephisto.
Yep, exactly. So this story starts with Christ's Crown, which is where the birthplace of Blackheart, and he emerges from that. People would make sacrifices to him and whatnot. But Blackheart, ironically, wants to kill his father. He knows what his destiny is. That's what Mephisto wants for him, to be the next ruler and things like that. It's awfully nice of him, but Blackheart doesn't want anything to do with that. Blackheart is definitely a different power set than your typical villain. And then I thought this team up was rather unusual at this time. It was like, each one of them on their own was a badass. There's no doubt about it. Wolverine, like Spider-Man, towards this point in time, was going to get put front and center a lot more. Punisher had definitely taken off in popularity. And with the return of Ghost Rider, it was a fresh new take. So why not? They threw them all together in one basket. I was just surprised that it was against a villain like Blackheart. I like the story for what it is. It's straight to the point. Blackheart basically wants to tempt each of these anti-heroes into helping Blackheart overthrow Mephisto. And if they could do that, they would, quote unquote, be saving so many lives and get everything they want. Information, or for Wolverine, and in Frank Castle, Punisher's case, his family. Danny Ketch, the mystery of Ghost Rider. He was still fairly new into the superhero thing. And obviously they didn't fall for that. I thought the story was interesting from the Blackheart perspective, and then just the fact that it took for this kind of character to get these three heroes all together in the same spot. That was all because of Blackheart. He thought that they would be the perfect agents of chaos for him.
Because each one of them is a bit. They're not the innocent superhero. They're not the do-gooder type. They're
Correct.
kind of
they will
do
cross
things
the line if they have to.
good. Yeah, they do good things by accident.
Correct.
Or they do
will
bad
cross
things
the
for
line.
good reasons. Yeah.
They'll sleep good at night. They're not going to worry about it. And I thought that was interesting. The what I was saying earlier at the top of the show, when you have team up books with different interpretations from the artist, I'm totally talking about Mephisto in this book, where Mephisto is a totally different design from the one that we're accustomed to seeing from the early pages of Surfer and thereafter.
Yeah.
I was kind of thrown aback by this when I first bought the book. I'm like, this is a whole different Mephisto, and I almost question, is it really him? But he says he is. Either way, and I thought at this point in time, with Danny Ketch still trying to figure out what the deal is with the Ghost Rider and things like that, they tease you with Blackheart saying you don't need the bike to transform into Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
And you see that in here, so it gives you that hope, like, if you're going to follow the path of the Ghost Rider, this story is far from over.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, 2 years later, this wouldn't be the last time these guys team up. They do it again in the Dark Design.
Yep.
Maybe I'll cover that book another time. But I thought overall, for two characters I really didn't care too much about. Wolverine, I liked him in the X-Men. I didn't like him outside of the X-Men.
Yep.
I was never really a diehard Punisher fan. I was starting to get into Ghost Rider, but when you threw them all in here together, I'm like, okay, this got my attention. And then certainly anything with Mephisto related via Blackheart definitely got my attention. So it's something that I enjoyed.
Cool. Good shout. Well done. Good points well made. Professor, what's your take on Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Punisher?
Well, this was definitely a very commercial type book of its time for 1991, where the anti-hero was the thing.
It was the king. The anti-hero was the king. Go on.
Yep. Punisher, Wolverine, Ghost Rider was red hot at this time, if you remember. And bringing Howard Mackey, the writer of Ghost Rider, along with the art team for Punisher War Journal, right? Which kind of gave the Punisher fans a reason to come over, the Ghost Rider fans a reason to come over, and of course Wolverine was in absolutely everything in 1991. Yep. So it was a good story with Blackheart wanting to take out Mephisto, and it was primarily a Ghost Rider story if you read it through. And it made me wonder at points in the story what the heck Punisher and Wolverine were even doing in the book.
That's exactly what I've written down on my notes.
So, to me, it was definitely a Ghost Rider story with, just kind of Punisher and Wolverine were there for eye candy, because I'm a fan of John Romita Jr.'s work, and I think nobody draws Punisher like JR. So to me, it was good. I liked it. I'm not a huge fan of Blackheart, to be totally honest. And like 13, that Mephisto design was just out of left field, and I don't think anybody else drew him like that. I think John Romita was the only one that drew Mephisto as like kind of a monster. Everybody else followed the John Buscema Mephisto. So,
right.
See, I can see it. I don't know. Let me bring that panel back up. 2 seconds. I'll find it for you, just so we can have a look at it. There it is. I can see it. Just around the face element, definitely. I mean, every time I see Mephisto, he has that wild hair. Yeah, that's there, and then he's got a very pointy nose, like a Roman nose. So I kind of see that there as well.
The nipple design was
neck down. It goes a little bit, but I can see the logic. I mean, he's evil. He's going to be like, he's going to be a bit putrid. He's going to be like, yeah. So I can see the logic behind it, but facially, I could see, yep, that's Mephisto.
Yeah, the face is okay. It's just the rest of it was not one of the best. Yeah. I mean, best designs I've seen.
What it reminded me of was because this is what, 91 or 92?
This book 91. Came out in November 91.
Because when so this predated Todd McFarlane's Spawn, right? Because I thought that the design of the Devil and Spawn was kind of similar to this.
And the Danny Ketch's Ghost Rider was the year before, and like you said, it was definitely hot off the press.
Yep.
Like there wasn't anybody that I knew that collected comics that was not getting Ghost Rider. They were just getting it, and then they were just continuing to get the books. And when this came out, it's like, oh, a standalone with Punisher and Wolverine. I'm there. That's all I heard. Yeah. So I'm like, I might as well check it out.
I back in the early 90s, I had a little comic book business called Underground Comics. I've mentioned it before, and one of the books that kept me afloat was this. I must have sold umpteen copies of this. It was a huge bestseller. It just flew off the shelves. People were like, can you get another copy? Yep. There it went. Can you get another one? Yeah. Titan Comics were great for that, for distribution.
Yep.
Diamond distribution, sorry. They really kept me broad. I mean, to be fair, there was also a couple of others. There was a Will Sparticio book that was very horror themed beforehand. So people were getting into this prestige thing. Comments from me. Wolvie says he's a bad waiter. Maybe he might be better as a maitre d'.
No. Hold on, I'm mailing you my laugh.
Well, I didn't even touch on the last book, The Human Torch. Flames on in his normal street clothes and they don't burn. It's all his uniform. It's all his clothes, unstable molecules. What's that all about? Lucy reminds me of every kid who thinks that a blow coming into a mum's life means that she's going to get off with the blow. It's like she goes. It's like every time every time Michael Knight rolls into a new town, there's always a kid saying, "Oh, Michael, are you going to still be my new dad?" And that's exactly Lucy to the T on this one. So
that's what happens with Michaels, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Ghost Rider.
Maybe she thought she was getting 3 dads in this book. Oops.
Well, maybe that's a whole different story.
3 anti-heroes and a baby.
Yeah. Ghost Rider's ends justify his means, pretty much is the moral of this book. I agree with 13, with Professor to an extent. What purpose is Punisher serves in this book is about as helpful as sunlight in Gotham. I don't understand. He shoots at Blackheart in the town and nothing happens. Then they get dragged down to Blackheart's home turf and he starts shooting them in. Has effect.
He changed cartridges.
Oh, whatever.
Little hellfire bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really sure how Wolvie is either, as mentioned. But for me, again, I agree with 13. JR's art works perfectly for this book. The heavy inks by Klaus Janson set it off brilliantly. The only kind of knock I would have on the artwork, and it is a slight knock, if anything, is that his Danny Ketch looks a lot like his Peter Parker is going to look in a few years' time. That's probably the only knock on the art. But you know what? This was an absolute gem to pick. Well done, 13th. I really enjoyed.
No problem.
I had a blast reading this. I just forgot how out there it was.
I'm with you on the art because I don't want Klaus Janson to not be forgotten here. He's one of my favorite inkers ever. And despite Blackheart having a simple design, that's a hell of a lot of inking, especially when you have these close-ups and you can see that he has all these spikes on his body. You have to leave enough room for coloring and things like that. So it blended well with JR's art.
There you go. There he is. Definitely. But I mean, JR's really heavy lined anyway, so
Correct.
it really works really well. And that's why I mean the pair still work together now. So, so there you go. Excellent. Good choice. Good choice indeed. Right, from the sublime to the ridiculous, it's my turn.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Wait there, sir. Right, so
Where's Blackheart when you need him?
there was loads of choices I could have gone if you think about it. I mean, when you talk about team ups, I could have gone, Judgment on Gotham, Judge Dredd, Batman. I think
you could have gone Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
Green Arrow, Green Lantern. I could have gone all sorts of different ways with this.
Hawkman Adam.
Yeah, could have done that, yeah.
That's taking it back.
Yeah, taking it back.
Instead, I went for this little gem. There we go. This is Brave and the Bold, 166, one of the very first comics I ever had. On eBay, you can get this from £5 to £15. On Go Collect, 9.6 will get you $88. That's how much it'll cost you. Why is this so expensive? Well, this is also the first appearance of Nemesis. Ironically, exactly. Ironically, I didn't read the Nemesis story at the back of the book because who read that, right?
I didn't know if we were going to talk about it.
No.
Well, I read the Twinkies advertisement in here, but I'll save that for later.
There's a Batgirl Twinkies advert. Woo! Yeah. Right. So I suppose I better start this off then. I picked this book because I love this book. It's one of my favorite books. That said, I forgot that it wasn't Jim Aparo on side. So this is written by Michael Fleischer, art by Dick Giordano with inks by Terry Austin, letters are by Ben Order, and colors are by Adrian Roy. So it's a decent art team, but yeah, Jim Aparo would have set this off brilliantly. Story-wise, this is somewhat of a remake or a homage or a steal or a theft or a kidnapping or whatever it is when stories get nicked of Batman 251. In Batman 251, the Joker's five-way revenge. The Joker comes back to the Silver Age with a bang and pretty much goes after the people who done him in, which is exactly the same story here, but instead features Penguin. There you go. Cool. Penguin has kind of made an escape from prison. He's now out to get the fine finks who did him in. Can you see a homage? Look at that picture. That is the five-way Joker run. Remember 13?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So talk about stealing it.
Mm-hmm. Just borrowing. If it's the same character, it's just borrowing.
No, is that how it works? Yeah. This book I enjoyed immensely. I still enjoy it now. However, there are a couple of problems with this book. The artwork's well. Black Canary is well served artistically, at least, in every iteration, whether it be here as Dinah or whether it's back when she's in a costume. Ta-da! However, first problem, number one, DC's editorial at the time wants you to believe that Black Canary is as adept at doing her thing as Batman is his. Correct? Yep. However, in a fight, she gets clocked. What? Not only that, when they split up to do their own things, she ends up getting kidnapped and tied to a chair. So
in her underwear.
Well, yeah, that's because this imposter you try to use her outfit to try and seduce Batman into a kiss of death. But Batman, being Batman, recognizes that that's real blonde hair, not a wig. Because Dinah wears a wig. And hence
Hates
there's
the world's greatest detective.
Yeah. So he
Well done,
leaves.
Batman.
Yeah.
Well done.
So he leaves a leotard-clad, fishnet-wearing girl in a biker jacket, handcuffed to something. Well done.
With a cyanide capsule in her mouth.
Yeah. I mean, how many fetishes can you get in one comic book, right?
Hey.
It's a tic tac. It's a tic tac.
Then I suppose the other thing you've got to ask artistically is where's the bra go on that bottom panel? Where's that gone?
In the bat belt.
I don't know where it's gone. The second problem with this is because she gets clocked not once but twice. Batman has to rescue her not once but twice. So that leads you to believe, on the thread that the professor started a while back, why do you need a second character if Batman could have done it all himself?
This wasn't a team up. This was Batman rescues Black Canary twice.
I don't know. But anyway, that said, remember, it is a book of its time, as we say on the show all the time. So it is what it is from that point. I enjoyed it. I love Black Canary. I think she's class, and I still think she's class now, even though she does get a bit of a raw deal from DC at times. Batman Di Giordano is one of the top 10, would you say? Top 10 Batman artists?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you're getting some solid art there. This page works brilliantly with the shadows, obscuring who's who and stuff. And of course, we did mention it before, so we might as well show it. Where is it? I've seen it somewhere. Where is it? Have I gone past it? There is the Twinkie advert. There's a Bubble Yum. There's the. Did anybody ever buy anything out of a comic book? There it is. Batgirl.
Jet Set
Right.
Jesse.
There we go. Cool.
There
Right.
she is.
Yeah. Twinkies and was it Twinkies in DC and Hostess in Marvel, or did they interchange?
Well, Twinkies is Hostess.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. I thought Hostess was something else. Oh, well, okay. There you go. Shows you how
Well, I
much know
remember
about
Galactus in a Twinkie advertisement once.
Okay.
Mhm.
There you go.
They couldn't bring him enough Twinkies.
I
And
didn't
then
see
they
it.
sent him to a planet that was in the shape of a Twinkie.
Planet Twinkie.
Hey, I read these advertisements, man.
Yeah.
We should
Did
do
you know
a whole
Frank-
show on a Hostess advertisements.
Yeah, we should do.
This Jet Set Jesse, I mean, why can't they bring her back?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Should get her own title.
Did you know that Frank Miller's first art for Marvel was a Hostess advert?
I did not know that.
There you go. All right, where should we go? Professor, bear in mind I was relatively nice to your lame pick, so let's go.
Not how I heard it.
This was really, it wasn't really a team up. It was Black Canary appears in it and it gets her ass handed to her pretty much, and Batman has to save her twice. So to me, it just was kind of like a typical of what was going on in comics at the time, where especially in DC, I don't think, well, not really. There was some strong women characters in DC, but this was not Black Canary's best performance, shall we say. Does she have her sonic scream in this book, or this is not?
She does have a sonic scream, but she doesn't use it in this book.
It's the panel after when Batman was tucking in her cape.
Yeah.
Right. But why not, right? Because, I mean, like we said before, if the selling point on these team-up books is to showcase the person teaming up with the main character, so Batman, right? So the showcase should really be on Black Canary. We should kind of showcase everything that she can do. And here it's like she doesn't really do anything. So I don't think it worked. I don't think, as far as team-ups go, this was not a great team-up.
I think it's a fair shout, especially when you consider how Batman would seem super prepared for everything. It's that question again, isn't it? I mean, why does he need help? You know,
to take the Penguin out, because the Penguin is just,
yeah. It just doesn't always feel right. Some of the more interesting ones where he teams up with people you don't expect, like Ra's al Ghul, and stuff like this. So this isn't the first time that the two paired up. Black Canary does appear in an earlier Brave and the Bold as well. So there you go. 13th. Do you enjoy this book?
I love the cover. It's Jim Aparo. Can't go
Jim
wrong.
Aparo. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that cityscape
All right.
cover with them on the roof running towards the classic penguin. So
we get back to the cover then.
Yeah, so
what should I do now? Yeah. There we are. I can see it now. Ta-da!
Yeah, so back in this time, remember with covers, a lot of the space was taken up with the title of the book and whoever was going to appear in it. So with limited art space on the cover, I think it's a phenomenal job by Jim Aparo, but that's why he's one of the best Batman artists ever.
The best.
Jim with Dick Giordano, again, I think he's in the top 13. I can't say 10 Batman artists of all time. No doubt
all right,
about
then,
it.
Clever Clogs. Who would be your other 12?
That'll be a show for another time, sir.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Terry Austin, another great inker that I have enjoyed. So,
I mean, he made his mark with John Byrne a lot, didn't he?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So here you get to see some early work with him.
Mm-hmm.
Even the first page of the book when the guy's breaking out of the prison, and before I even knew who was involved in making this book, I felt it had that Jim Aparo feel right off the bat. Just with the way that the searchlights and things like that, guys running out of the penitentiary, I felt Jim Aparo brought that kind of life to the penitentiary, as well as Marshall Rogers, another guy that's in my top 13.
Don Newton. The figures look like Don Newton's work.
Yep.
That's what made me look, because I was like, oh, Don Newton. I didn't know he did that, and I looked. I was like, oh.
I always recognized Dick Giordano's work with Batman, like the up close and personal Batman look, especially when he's talking with the commissioner. He has a way of shading that it's almost the same in almost everything he does with Batman when he's up close. So, I mean, I don't know how many countless stories he's drawn in. He was a big figurehead for DC, obviously. So, the classic Penguin, this is it. To me, this is the epitome of Penguin and what he should look like, act, and whatnot. Years later, they'll probably infuse more of a personality with him, but this is the classic look. There's some panels when, particularly with the encounter with Black Canary, you'll get an up close and personal look of the Penguin, and I'm like, yeah, that's spot on Penguin. You see his monocle and everything, like all the classic things that makes Penguin recognizable. The females in this book, the way that they're drawn are excellent. Dinah Lance, Black Canary, far away, close up, doesn't matter. It's to me, it's a job well done. I agree with you guys on the story front, where if you're looking at it from a Black Canary perspective, it's pretty weak. It's actually pretty lame. I hate to put it that way, but if you really wanted to follow the exploits of Black Canary and get some substance out of it, unfortunately, you'd have to go to the pages of Justice League for that, where she endures more crap from Green Arrow, if not everyone else. And then, not to mention her convoluted history, where she doesn't know her Earth 2 counterpart or anything like that. Whether her mom was Black Canary or her sister before her, I mean, it's a complete mess.
I mean, you're right. Canary is one of those characters that just DC have kind of screwed over. And even DC themselves don't realize. I remember in the Birds of Prey issue, she got dumped in the Lazarus pit by Ra's al Ghul. And he was doing it for a nice reason, because she said, because he'd fallen for her and everything. And she said that she couldn't have kids. So he dumped her in the Lazarus pit so she could have her organs back, right? And she came out and he's like, oh no, it's made me whole again. And of course, had to do Lally. And then Sonic Scream came back, and because she was missing for a while, and she was doing all this, but her hair came out yellow, and I was like, that should be black if it's put her back the way it was, because at the time she was still she was like dyeing it by that point. She wasn't wearing the wig; she was dyeing it blonde.
Yeah.
So I'm like, come on, you don't even know your own character.
Some DC retcons or coincidences are just very laughable. Like, for instance, the Wally West Kid Flash, when he first debuted, had a costume very similar to the Barry Allen Flash. The only reason why it became yellow was because he got struck by lightning. For real? So, but this comic book right here, right in front of us, did not do Black Canary justice as far as character progression is concerned. And to Machine's point, you have to wait decades later for it to make any sense with Black Canary. Like Black Canary to me was really reborn during the Birds of Prey era, without a doubt.
Yeah,
That's when the real Black Canary started to emerge. But the sad part is when you look prior to that, you're going back to the late 50s. Like that's crazy.
I don't even think I think Green Arrow and her is such a toxic relationship. I mean, she doesn't even get a lot of love in the Green Arrow book.
Yeah,
she's very much a go and look after Roy type of thing. It's like, yeah.
Well, that's just the type of character that Green Arrow is. He rubs people the wrong way sometimes, and even when they agree with him, there's still some sort of turbulence or whatever. And no different with Black Canary. She's a different type of crime fighter than Green Arrow, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, her thing has always been when she's teamed up with Batman, it's just a different dynamic, but they just didn't elevate her like the way they did with Batgirl at this point in time until they put the both of them together.
Go figure, right?
Later. Yeah, go figure, right? Like, oh, wait. You know what I mean? But the art here is phenomenal nonetheless. It's classic Dick Giordano. No complaints there. Classic Batman is trying to solve the case. I think the guy had it solved in the first panel. He already knew where Penguin was going to go.
Yeah. Because he was around in Batman 251. That's why.
It's correct. It's like Batman almost did this. He pulled a Mephisto here. Let's just see how this goes. Yeah. I'll be here in case anything happens, but I'm just going to sit back and watch. And my last comment on the last panel, you know, I think he's just, the cape looks like it's coming off. He's just helping her get it back on.
It's funny because the editors have dropped the ball on this one because she's tied to a chair in her underwear, as we've mentioned, and we've said.
Is that a complaint?
No. It's the best part. No. It's the best Black Widow scene in Avengers, if I'm honest. But no, seriously, you can see from this panel, she doesn't wear a bra with this outfit. So then the question is, where did the bra come from in the first place? And then the editors take it off because she doesn't wear a bra. I'm confused. Just make a choice. Just make a choice, please. That's just me. If you are interested in Nemesis, we're not going to do a great deal on it. But basically, Nemesis is yet another balancing the scales of Justice character. So not only do you have Dr. Fate hanging out with the Lords of Chaos and the Lords of Order, not only do you have the Spectre being the spirit of vengeance for the DC universe, you've now got this clown doing it as well. So come on, DC. You know what I'm saying?
He looks like Johnny Quest.
Come on, DC, buy an idea from someone.
Am I wrong? Please. Like he looks like Johnny Quest.
No, he does.
My last final point on this: if you read the letters page, around here, they talk about Adam Strange in DC Presents, DC Comics #3, which we reviewed a couple of shows back.
Look at that.
So how's that? How's that? Go figure, right? It was like predestiny. We would have to talk about that book, then this book.
Hey, can you go back to that letters page?
Yep. Do you want me to zoom in, or do you need it just normal size?
Yeah, it's like the first letter on the right side.
Hang on, let me. I've got a little bit wonky technical errors. Here we go. We'll be with you shortly.
Muy bien.
Muy bien. For some reason,
getting a headache, Johnny.
It's not going round. No one else can see it apart from us, so it's fine. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, top right.
Top right.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, no, I just try to move it across. There we are. Yeah. Well, what about this one?
Can you help me pronounce that guy's last name? Is the H silent?
It's Fennis.
Ah, that's all.
Oh my God. Can't believe all that for that.
Don't you feel like a Fennis right now?
I think I know of a Fennis right now.
A practical joke. I love it.
Oh my God. All right, there you go. 3 team-up books of varying quality, shall we say.
For sure.
Yeah. But I suppose you can't escape the fact that everybody loves a good team-up. And sometimes we even love the bad ones as well.
Well, there were a lot of team ups that we didn't even talk about. So
Go on, give us some ideas. Come on.
Well, the Superman Batman for one was
That's a
one
good
of
one.
the.
We should have picked the world finest number one, shouldn't I?
I was
First
very
team up.
close to picking like team ups with teams, like the X-Men and Teen Titans. Something that was probably my next choice.
You know, it was X-Men versus Fantastic Four that was the thing that there was the catalyst for my idea.
Yeah. X-Men Micronauts was another one that I had on the tip of my tongue.
Another discussion about Michael Golden.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
But I just I have this fascination with team ups, but to me it feels like it's another level when it's two big groups, like Alpha Flight and X-Men, for example.
Yeah.
Or Avengers Defenders.
Okay.
Things like that.
Well, there's a show for another time then, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah. I'm sure I can find plenty of Justice League, Justice Society team ups.
Oh yeah.
Pick a year.
Yeah. I'll probably go with something else. I'm sure I'll try something else. Not sure of when though. All right, excellent. So there you go. As we said, 3 up, 3 down, as always. Professor, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you, Johnny, for the invite.
You're more than welcome. 13th, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Always. Don't forget to check out UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Professor.
No Prize Podcast, all about Marvel Comics, the MCU, and Disney Plus. Wow, we talk about a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Of course, we got Wakanda Forever coming out shortly, so I'm sure we'll have some of that going on, as well as the penultimate episodes of Andor. And of course, don't forget the TDC, the Definitive Crusade, for all your DC love and comics. There you go. What more can you want? Gentlemen, it's been a blast as always. I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. And for me, it's adios.